Get that one too?
Are we?
I have a name for this one.
Hang on, I just gotta get my notes out.
I have notes for this one.
Okay, I got a lot of notes, so.
It's gonna be fun.
All right, we ready to go, folks?
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second episode of the Marvel Retrospective.
Marvel.
I am the wild-sucking Travis Snail.
I am Mr. Green, Little Mus.
I'm the smashing Taylor Field.
That could be
Sure.
taken a few ways, actually.
It's up to the viewers.
It's an ambiguous ending.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not guessed by our names or the title or our brief description, this is the Marvel Retrospective. Like many retrospectives we've done before, we take a franchise.
We've been known to
Yeah, it's kind of one of our things.
Yeah.
We take a franchise, we start from the beginning and review it to the end. We are doing this in honor of Infinity War, coming out in May 2018. Yeah, yeah, they paid me to say that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That sounded like it.
Yeah, so we are reviewing Iron Man to Ant-Man. We have reviews of the other ones after Ant-Man. You can go back and take a look, and we've dived deep in those before. But we're doing the movies we have not really reviewed. We've talked
The
about them here and there.
pre-podcast era, you could say.
Exactly.
The Dark Ages.
When we had
The Golden
lives and we didn't just sit in front of a microphone, you know. But we're here for your entertainment, for the viewing, to talk about these great, or maybe not so great sometimes, Marvel MCU movies. We're reviewing the second edition of the MCU. Came out only a few months after Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk. Not Ang Lee's Hulk, The Incredible Hulk, starring Edward Norton and Liv Tyler. Dylan, what do you think about this? Because there is a point, I think a few months ago, you didn't even know this movie existed.
No,
Because Mark Ruffalo was recast as this character. They don't really refer back to this movie at all because
no, they don't.
We talk about Terrence Howard. That's easy recast to slip in. When you recast the lead of a whole movie, they kind of just like none of it really happens.
Yeah, I think this is the one Marvel movie that I hadn't seen until yesterday.
And Thor: Dark World, remember? You hadn't seen, or did you think?
I think I was like skimming through it. I was like, this sucks. Anyway.
What figure can you do?
Yeah, The Incredible Hulk. So I just watched it for the first time yesterday after not really knowing it existed until semi-recently. And this movie was really bad.
Oh, no!
Like, I was going through this movie, and this one I'm not going to go back on. Like, the Iron Man, I started out a little bit negative, but then it kind of ended positive. This one is probably just going to get more negative. Like, I have so many problems with this movie. When I was going through and I was like, I have my notes, I have like my pros and cons, I had to like struggle to come up with a single pro for this movie. I think this is like quick spoiler, but I think I might like this less than Thor: Dark World. Like this is This is probably my least favorite.
Bullshit.
This is probably my least favorite Marvel movie.
I'm gonna turn
this movie
around.
fucking sucks.
Okay, I'm going before Taylor. This movie is easily the most underrated MCU movie, maybe the most underrated comic book movie.
Wrong.
This is the best version of Bruce Banner. This is the greatest Hulk movie we're ever gonna get. The way it's told, it is fantastic. This is maybe one of the best romances. I know you're gonna disagree.
Right?
No, 100%. This is one of my favorite MCU movies.
I think we watched different movies.
The romance is good. Those two have better chemistry than almost every other one, maybe other than like Pepper Potts and Tony, and maybe Peggy and Cap. Great villain, and I'm not being joking or facetious. Both in William Hurt as Ross and as Blonsky as Abomination. It's fantastic. A great setup. Great action. They have great score. I listen to the score quite a bit on my phone, especially the score.
What are you doing with your life?
The
score fucking sucks.
No, the score.
It's so bad.
The score.
It's like It's the description of generic. Action movie.
Okay, maybe you can
bullshit.
Pull that out. But the reason I love the score are the softer, calmer moments. The score when Betty and Bruce reunite in the rain is fucking outstanding. It's outstanding. I listen to it all the time. It is great. Edward Norton is the best Hulk and best Bruce Banner, and I'll get that. I have many points why. This is an outstanding movie, and I think if it came out today, maybe not for Dylan, but if it came out today, it would get so much more love. The only reason it doesn't is because it came off of fucking Ang Lee's Hulk. And you think this movie's bad? You've not seen bad. You will see Ang Lee's Hulk, and then you'll be like, this is a
I
fucking...
have seen that movie, actually.
And you like it more?
I don't remember.
Okay, this is like the Dark Knight compared to that. Ang Lee's Hulk almost killed...
Don't call this movie the Dark Knight.
It is of the Hulk movies. It's the Dark Knight of Hulk movies.
It's a dark piece of shit.
And I think even if Marvel made it... Dark Future. I think even if Marvel made another standalone Hulk movie, it would not be as good as this. The Incredible Hulk is phenomenal.
Incredible piece of shit. That's what I think.
So Taylor, you're the man in the middle.
Wow, this is very divided here.
The man in the middle.
This is the swing vote.
The swing vote.
And you love swinging and
I'm watching
smashing.
Survivor tonight, by the way.
So,
Come on in, guys!
where did my history start with this movie now?
Oh, why is it going to be history?
There's always some good lore.
I just want the
though.
juice at the end.
Yeah. So I ended up, how did this go? So I didn't see it in theaters. Me and my dad.
He is an alien. Like, was I on the solar system when this movie came out?
No, I wasn't.
Sorry.
Incredible
I
Hulk!
was on Scipio or whatever that place is called.
Scipio.
What?
That sounds like an illegal website.
In Ragnarok.
Sakar.
Sakar, that's
Scipio.
Scipio.
That's the Genesis song that they wanted to call it Scipio, but they decided Susudio was better instead of Scipio.
But yeah, I remember didn't see it until we ended up buying it again at the
Oh,
same movie
Jesus!
store. That
You just
same
straight
movie
up
rental
raw dog
store.
a movie and buy it like that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was
Highly
like
fraudulent.
it was Hulk, and I remember watching that older one that
The TV show?
the
The Ang Lee one.
Yeah,
with the rabbit
Rings.
dogs. And
the dogs. I don't remember what the hell really was going on in that movie.
Maybe one day we'll review it.
Like I don't remember. Like I remember just it was the we'll get to that another day. But anyways, yeah,
Another year, I think.
another year.
Another dollar.
This movie literally I think it did so much good stuff. I think it really pulled me.
Yes, me too. On the same page for once.
I'm straight up like I could watch it again and again, like back to back easily.
Easily.
I think this movie was really, really entertaining.
There's nothing I'd like to do.
I don't
less than watch
get
this movie
it. I
again
don't
right
understand. Even you could be
Now.
like, oh, I
Get to
didn't
it.
love
Let
it.
Taylor finish. Then we can
Oh.
get into.
I think it
the
had
nuggets.
such great moments, and even like he wasn't trying to be quippy and humorous, but he had so many moments where he delivered, like in the cab scene, for example. He's like, I know some techniques to really help, and she's like, don't you? Or like this, they had such great chemistry together.
They do. They 100% do.
no.
Oh, I'm fired up.
I thought it was great, and just even when he wasn't Hulk and he's running or whatever, like when he was running from the the special forces,
The chase scene.
The chase scene was fantastic through the favela and everything.
Fantastic. The
Like,
action.
Just going through all these different locations, it was very just different atmospheres and tones was great, and his Hulk sequences for me were just absolutely awesome. I loved them.
Yeah, I'm 100% with. I've never been more in agreement with Taylor before.
That's why I think you're lying to me. I think you're playing the
no,
long con.
I-
Then you're gonna be like, Dylan, you were right. I fucking hate this
I've
shit
been
movie."
trying so hard.
Taylor, you suck. You're just
I
gonna
tell
go
people
off.
go back and revisit this all the time. Even then too, like
I feel bad for all of those people.
no,
that you feel bad
no. You are wrong, sir. No, but even the connection that Hulk has with Betty, like they have a great, like this is the best story. This is the best King Kong movie since the fucking 60s because they've always tried to do this and it never works out with King Kong remakes. This is that. It works out so well. You get like just even that one Betty, like you get to see the Hulk slowly become a person. You really, to me, Hulk is so scary in this movie that I love Ragnarok, but this Hulk would beat the fucking shit out of Hulk in Ragnarok. Like he is scary in this movie. The way they make him like a horror villain and like our movie Monster with like him appearing in the shadows and you see his hand, like the cinematography is great. Like I don't know, I'm gonna let you go. What is like what if
Okay,
like
so-
you dislike a lot, but what's your like biggest dislike?
So my biggest dislike is that this is just like the most generic, like shitty action movie. That's how I would describe this movie. This is not a superhero movie to me. Nothing like I think.
But
like,
why
I
is
looked
that
in, I looked into like the director and I saw like all the other movies on.
Yeah,
Jen,
he
and,
doesn't
like,
have a good.
okay, this guy's just like
Yeah.
this is why this movie was like some generic action movie because that's all this guy does, and that's what I felt like those scenes that were supposed to be like horror scenes when he's creeping out of the shadows. Like I just think the pacing and like the shots they used were really weird. Like there's that scene out when they're fighting at the university, and for some reason like cuts to like some guy like filming in the trees. I'm like, the fuck, like this is just whoever is editing this like is confused.
But why?
Like, this
Somebody's
is poorly done.
some students filming the
it's
Hulk.
it's not necessarily like the idea of what they wanted to do. It's like the fact it just didn't work at all with the flow of the movie. I think what was I gonna say? So I forget.
I want to counter you because you said, "Oh, it's like an action movie," and it kind of is. To me, it's very much like a
okay.
James
No, I remember what I was
okay.
gonna say. I think my biggest problem with this movie is that I think it succeeded in doing everything it wanted to, and that's why I'm so disappointed, because it was just so basic and boring. And I think I think the connection between Bruce Banner and whatever her name
Betty
was awful. I think she had like probably some of the worst dialogue I've ever seen in like any movie of my entire life. I don't think they had any chemistry whatsoever. I think the action was boring. I think the villains were really bad and like just super tacked in there and like paced really poorly. I like the idea that Bruce Banner's on the run and he's going to all these places and he's just trying to escape, and then he still doesn't know how to control it. I like the idea, but I don't think any of it worked at all.
Wow.
You go for
See, no, that's the thing, when you said it's like an action movie, I feel very much it's like a James Bond, Bourne Ultimatum thing, but the thing is, this is like newer MCU before MCU. Like, we talk about how, like, okay, Ant-Man's a heist film in a comic book, like, skin. Black Panther's, like, gonna be a global film. Doctor Strange is a fucking Harry Potter film. And, like, that's what this is. It's, like, a Bourne super, like, action thriller, like, spy thriller, but instead of the spy being, like, really good with guns and, like, sleeping with women, he turns into an incredible green monster. Like, that's the vibes that I see as that, like, yeah, like, that, I agree with Taylor, that chase scene through that city is really intense. And
I feel like we had like 3 chase scenes in this movie though, right? Like that's where to me it's like, okay, I've seen him running for probably 30 minutes of my life now, and I don't know if I care
other than the city though. Like there's
one at like at the beginning in the city, and then there's one in like out in the favela Brazil, sort of jumping across rooftops.
I don't know which one you're referring to for the beginning. I think there's just that big one, and the rest are all.
Well, there's the one when they go to his apartment, and he like jumps out the window.
Yeah, that's the main city one. That's a 15-minute like scene of him just running to place.
That's how long it was. I thought it was multiple scenes.
Runs into like that, like the girl he kind of was interested in place, and he like helps, like she helps him like escape, and there's like the dog and everything like that. Like, I think that chase scene is phenomenal, and I think that I do like him going place to place, trying to cure himself. I think the only part that snags a bit is when he meets Mr. Blue. That's a little bit of we take a back seat.
Poorly done.
I won't say poorly done. No.
That's what I'll say.
I say it slows down the movie a bit.
Truth.
But I don't understand what's your problem with the villains, because to me the villains.
Well, let's talk about it then. So for me, that character, I don't know his name. The guy who turns into Abomination.
Blonsky, yeah.
Blonsky.
Yeah.
So
the great Tim Roth.
I agree. I think the actor is fine, but I think the character was super stupid in this movie.
Oh no.
What is his story? Like, he's super basic. His only line that has any relevance to like his story in the movie is that, oh, I like fighting, and that's what he does. No, he's a fighter. He likes fighting. You're
missing this completely. That's not the line. That's not the when he's like, give me a real fight. That's not Blonsky. Blonsky, that's like Abomination fucking with his head. Blonsky is the line where William Hurt's talking to him, General Austin, he's talking about this and everything, and Tim Roth says, like, really, like, kind of depressed, and he goes, if I could take what I knew now in this brain and put it in my body 20 years ago, that's somebody I wouldn't want to mess with. That's the soldier I would want to be. So his story is dealing with immortality and dealing with he's getting older, his body's breaking down. Like, there's those moments in the chase where he's not catching Banner because he's slow, he's older, he can't keep up with not even the Hulk, just like Banner as like a younger guy. And to me, that's a story of, yeah, he's chasing power, but he's just chasing youth. Like, that's the thing where I like him the same way as Obadiah. His thing
I didn't get that feel at all. I just get the feeling that he's like just wants to keep fighting. I never got any of the storyline that he's like dealing with lost time, and I think you're digging into it too much.
No, because they specifically put that line in there, and that's how it starts with the super soldier serum, like that program, because they want to give him like youth and everything like that. I agree. At the end, he becomes like he wants to fight, but he first what he goes into is he wants his youth and he wants to just be kind of immortal in a way, but just doesn't want to die. He wants to be his younger self. But then as he sees Hulk and he sees what Hulk can become, he festers and he gets obsessed with the idea of, okay, he's not good enough with just being like a younger version of himself, a younger, better version. He wants to be even better than that. And then he wants to be the Hulk, and he wants to be better than that. Like that moment when he's telling I can't remember his real name, but the leader who becomes the leader, we'll get into that later, Mr. Blue, like when he's just saying like, I want that, like whatever he has him and he wants it, and he just looks like a fucking junkie, and that's how I love, like, you see him at the very beginning of the movie, he's super composed, and he's very soldier, and he's very professional, he's very nice suit. Near the end, his suit's all messed up, he's sweaty, he looks like a crack addict. Like, you see his progression throughout the movie as he's starting to like dip into madness, and he just wants to be more, he gets power hungry. That's what he gets. And I love that. I love it. I don't know how you can't, but I love it. I think
it's great if you can piece that together in your head.
I just feel
that.
like
For me, it's not how it.
I feel like that
all.
conversation that he has with General Ross in the war zone completely lays out that. It's not, yeah, he wants to fight at the end, but that's not the way it is at the first half of the movie, to me at least. That's not what I took
And
from
to
it.
me, he was just like a very generic bad guy with a gun, and
Yeah.
that's fine, but I mean, that's why I didn't like him, just because that's the vibe I was getting.
Fair enough.
the whole time.
Taylor Field?
He's easily one of my favorite villains. I'm not gonna lie. I think just the way the actor I thought did a great job, and just Blonsky I think as a character like what you said. I think you actually had a lot of good points about it. I won't lie. But I think that
lie to the viewers.
Lie to them.
I think that just he's unlike the other kind of villains we see. He just got like as you said, like he was all sweaty and stuff. It just made it look like he was just like craving, not drugs.
I love that that's what you said. Unlike other villains, he was all sweaty and stuff.
No, it was like equivalent to like just someone getting addicted to like a drug or something. He was just addicted to getting more power and stronger and everything. And that fight scene, again, like this is probably my favorite scene from the whole movie. Is just when he's in the schoolyard or whatever fighting, and he's doing the flips around Hulk and shooting, and Hulk's smashing these fucking sharp doors or plates down, and he's dodging around, and General Ross is like, oh my god, he's doing it, and just like, fucking, come on, like, you're rooting for him, like, it's insane.
And then Hulk just kicks him, and then he like breaks his entire body.
Jesus.
Breaks his entire body.
But he's absolutely, I think he's a super cool villain, and his transition into Abomination, I think, is so badass. And I always thought it was cool, because I remember looking up, like, the difference between Abomination and Hulk, and I think, like, it was cool, because, like, Abomination is just at this solid amount of power and strength. He's really strong, but then what Hulk has over him is just the anger he gets, the more stronger he gets. So.
That's how it works.
Story of our lives, yeah.
Story of our lives.
What do we think about General Ross? Because we kind of touched upon him in like the conversation with Blonsky. I think he works very well. It's just like he is the guy, the villain. He's very much like we talk about like what Donald Pierce in Logan. You know what he's after. And he wants to get it. He wants to get the Hulk. He'll stop at no cost to get it, and that's what I like. And obviously, they even tied it in at the end when they say like the real reason he wants it because he wants to use it as a weapon, everything like that. So I like that aspect of it. He's very simple, and then I think the stuff with Betty fleshes him out quite a bit because there's moments when Betty's in danger, and he is a dick dad. But then in those moments where she's in danger, he's not. He like runs out and he tells him to stop firing. Like I think they do a good job of fleshing him out. Where if you once again, it's also because Ang Lee's Hulk is bad. You never really get that vibe in that one. In the comics too, sometimes they make Thunderbolt Ross really, really like of a dick, and I like the more he has a bit more of a sensitive side to him. Very, very small,
Very
but
cute.
it adds to his character.
Yeah, for me, similar to Blonsky, he was very generic and like one note, and that kind of like to me when there's like the reveal that Betty is his daughter, I was like seriously, is that what's happening now? Like why is that necessary? It felt like they just did that so that you don't have to like show and like actually build these characters, but then they can just say that's his daughter and now.
You feel like you didn't get that from the opening credits though, when they're like together and they're hurt together in that lab. I guess you may not get their daughter, but that they're connected. Because in opening credits, Banner goes through the procedure, everything, and then they switch to everything's torn apart, and you see like Betty and General Ross laying there together, both knocked out and bloodied. So they were together.
I don't remember that scene.
Oh yeah, no, it happens. And the reason they didn't do it was because it was the Spider-Man thing of Ang Lee. The whole half of the movie is the origin of the Hulk, so they wanted to do Spider-Man Home. They do Spider-Man Homecoming, where they just we'll do it in the credits, which I love them doing it in the credits.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess for me, like that was like his really only emotional scene, and it felt like unjustified. Like obviously he would care if his daughter was like getting shot at, but I just didn't really care. Like I thought that was a really boring relationship, and those two didn't have like any chemistry. Like when she goes up and she's like dad, and
I love that scene.
That scene to me was just so we're like her running around doing anything. I did not like that character like at all. But, yeah, so I was therefore not a fan of Mr. Storm.
Thunderbolt Ross, who
Thunderbolt.
does come back in Civil War. That's the only tie to this movie, really. Like what else?
There's another tie. In Avengers, in Stark Tower, when Tony Stark's looking at screens, he pulls up a screen and it shows the
fair enough.
The schoolyard fight scene.
Yeah, that because that footage that student records, they use it in Avengers. So fair enough. I meant from a really like Betty hasn't come back. They have said that Abomination is in a jail cell somewhere, which I wish we would have saw. That's what makes me mad in Civil War. I wish we would have saw that. They have this huge prison. They have some villains that are alive. You could easily just fucking CG Abomination in the corner,
so
you know,
cool.
like. But they say they're still in there, so maybe someday. But I don't think so because it's so tied to this movie, and I think Dylan will roll over in his grave if they announce Abomination's coming back. So.
Fucking Abomination.
What did you think about Ross?
He's definitely a dick dad.
Dick Dad.
He's
Dick Dad. Coming this fall to NBC.
He's got his priorities set.
He's not taking you to the Dutch, that's for sure.
No, he's not. Yikes.
He's definitely not paying if he does.
I thought it was very cool though. At the same time, you know, he's a good actor and everything, and just he's got his priorities set. This is what he wants, and he wants to get the Hulk. And I always wondered, like, I mean, taking what I know now after seeing all these movies, why S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't kind of intervene in that. But I guess it was just the movie magic, like, for the story, right?
Well,
Movie magic.
Movie magic.
Let's blame that movie magic.
It is interesting. The thing is, we don't know. So, I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. does kind of intervene in the Avengers, though, right? We don't really know the timeline of. So, it seems like Bruce Banner becomes Hulk. Hulk destroys stuff and he runs away, and then Banner maybe stays in hiding because he knows what Hulk did was bad, obviously because he destroyed a room or a building even. So I think we're supposed to say that Hulk thing happened, and then he's never really been around them since, and he's been on the down low since then. I think because in Avengers that's what happened. Black Widow shows up, they have all the agents, they're surrounding Hulk. So I think it's like, okay, the second we've got eyes back on him, we'll take him out. And I think the reason they're not involved in this movie is because it's like Ross playing it on the down low of like, oh, like, because that's the thing, he doesn't even tell his soldiers that like they're going in after the Hulk the first time, right? Like that's what Blonsky says, like you got to prepare them, you got to have them better, you can't have people that are like grade A soldiers like shitting in their pants, you know. So I think that they try to just downplay it before other government got involved. I think that's the way to take it with S.H.I.E.L.D. not being around. So
yeah, like him, just like Blonsky, they were scary at times. Like you don't know really what they're capable of, and just they're willing to do what it takes.
And what I like at the end is you get a vibe of them really disconnecting of at the end when like he's like, don't go in that room, and you see it slowly in like the second half, slowly that Blonsky starts like disobeying him and not listening to him, and then in the end, to me, that's why I kind of buy that there's a kind of a struggle there. And when he looks over, he's like, Ross, like you can get the sense of not that maybe he hates him, he's just annoyed with him, and it's just now that he has his power, he doesn't want anyone to take away, and he knows Ross could. So I like that in the middle they start to put little chinks in there, like friendship of okay, and plus Blonsky eventually seems like every time he recovers seems like a little less alright, you know, like mentally he doesn't seem like he's all there. He has this great CGI body, which that's the only negative I'll give is like CGI. I'm like a pair of like 8-pack, and it's like it looks really bad, but that's the only negative I got on Blonsky. Do we have anything? Yeah.
Well, just to talk about Abomination really quick, I think he was fine. It was like kind of like an expected turnout for a movie like this. You got to have someone who can compete with Hulk. Oh, yeah. And it was like the fight scenes really basic as well. Like Abomination is fucking him up at first, but then eventually he takes over and.
I'll disagree.
I don't know, like that.
The way he picks up like those anchors
and like Hulk rips out his like
bone and stabs.
Well, yeah, that's the end of the fight scene. But I mean, like it starts out how those fight scenes always start out, where Abomination is fucking up Hulk, and then at the end, like I thought that anchor thing was super cheesy and stupid. Not cheesy in a good way, cheesy in a way like seriously that's the best you can come up with kind of way.
Oh, that's why I like they use the environment and they use.
I think it's cool that he takes the spike from his arm and like that's what he. Takes him out with.
What about the car boxing gloves? Like when he rips the cars and he uses them as boxing gloves.
So good, just like the game.
I feel like I feel like they do start off that way, like it's just two big guys fighting. But I feel like it progresses, and I like the way of him like eventually getting that anchor. He wraps around Abomination, chokes him out. Like I think they do like creative stuff with those characters. I think in the fight.
Sure.
Yeah.
That one scene where it's leading up to Abomination's kind of reveal, but like the soldiers get into the car and they open up the back and they're like sweet, and it's a rocket launcher, and they just go at him and they shoot it and he grabs it and it's like he's like
whoa. He bites it and turns it into a fire. Fire
just
form.
goes nuts.
Fire form.
Fire form.
Fire flower.
Oh, we haven't talked about him at all, and I'm surprised we didn't. But I guess I just wanted to get into Blonsky because you shut off. What did you think about Nord? Because obviously you said you've maybe seen like Ang Lee's Hulk, but like whatever, you got Ruffalo to compare him to. What do you think about?
Yeah, like I've never read any Hulk comic book, so I don't know what that character is supposed to be like. I found this one quite boring because I feel like he didn't have a whole lot of lines. Like he was kind of quiet, which is fine, and it makes sense for a character like him. But I found when he did speak, it was just like really, really boring dialogue, and I never got the vibe that I like from Mark Ruffalo and what they do with that character. That he's a really smart guy. Like I honestly like get very little of that throughout this movie. Because he's supposed to be like a really good scientist, isn't he? And he knows all about this stuff.
Yeah.
I really didn't get that feel at all, and I maybe got the feeling that this was like this would have been before like he kind of becomes the scientist and learns about all these things, and I don't know, is that supposed to be the case? Like, was he supposed to feel smart in this movie? Because I did not get that vibe.
I think no, he is a scientist. I don't think he gets many opportunities to be smart other than the beginning when he's doing the tests on himself though. Like he's not in a lab that much, and then at the end when he is talking to Mr. Blue, that's when he is talking about kind of like being smart as a scientist, like you can't do this with my blood, this could happen, blah blah blah. I don't think they give him any chances to be smart. I could give you that. I think where I can counter with the thing I've always not disliked about Ruffalo, but I've won more is with Ruffalo, I never feel that being the Hulk lots of times is a really big weighing thing on him. I always feel like it's Ruffalo portraying like, oh, I'm really mad or I'm really scared that the Hulk's here.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Where with Edward Norton, I do feel that anytime he's about to turn the Hulk, he looks fearful and he looks really scared and he looks anxious and nervous. I never get that from Ruffalo. I always just get like, he's like normal, he gets in the corner and then he's like, bro, and he's like Hulk right away. We don't ever see him fight the Hulk too much. Even Ragnarok though, it was used for like jokes, right? For him turn. So that's where I would prefer. I can give you the science stuff because I don't know if that's him or I just don't know if he gets a chance to be a scientist in this. It's kind of like when people talk about like Batman being a detective.
I feel like you should sprinkle it in there to establish that he's a smart character.
You don't think they do it at the beginning though, when he's doing the blood test on himself and he's like
Not
cooking
really.
stuff and he has like all these chemicals going on?
Not really, because it's not like consistent throughout the movie. Right?
But then you said sprinkle, like you want to sprinkle. I guess I feel like it was sprinkled in those moments. I don't know where you could do it in the chase or. Like,
I think it comes through in his dialogue too, like just the way he seems like kind of like a clueless, kind of like an airhead sort of guy, and I don't know, that's not the character I picture at this point, at least from like where they've taken the character nowadays. Yeah. Where he still is quiet generally. Obviously, Ragnarok kind of changes, but he is quiet generally. But he always is like thinking about things, and he seems like contemplative, and even when he isn't saying stuff. Yeah. And I didn't quite get that vibe. One thing I had as a pro was I think the Days Since Incident thing is a really creative way to jump around time frames and give the viewer like an exact understanding of like how much time has progressed, because a lot of movies we've talked about over the last couple of years doing this podcast, like, oh, I thought that was like a week, and then someone's like, oh, I thought it was a month. No, that was only like a couple hours or something. Like some movies really don't make it clear, and so this one obviously makes it like gives you an exact time frame. And I think it worked well. Like there's that point where I guess it's like he was in his whole rage, he was doing some shit. And then he like skips to his next scene is like 16 days since incident. So you can tell that he's been traveling around, he's been doing stuff in that time. So that was one thing I liked about it for sure. And the whole CGI I'm kind of like iffy on. Like it was good enough. It wasn't that bad. It was okay. I think I like the style that he has more nowadays. I like that look more. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think it fits more to like what the Marvel movies look like in general. So that is probably to its benefit. Mm-hmm. But I kind of like that more like animated look as to opposed to like a guy, like a really human looking guy who's just big and green. I guess. See, that's just like a personal preference thing. It doesn't really take away from the movie for me because I think he looked fine enough and like the facial reactions and stuff. Yeah, like that was well done with the CGI. Yeah, I think that's where we clash because it's just like for me, same thing, personal reference. I like this Hulk bear just because he looks. For me, it's the same thing. He looks scarier to me. He looks more, I don't want to mess with this guy. Yeah, more realistic as opposed to the animated. Yeah, where Hulk now, he still looks great, looks like the Hulk, but he sometimes feels a little Disney-fied for me. You know, he feels like a little bit, the edges are really smooth. Like the way the Hulk's chest is in this movie, he has like
these divots in them. Like they're just like he looks like he's broken and
Yeah,
bone.
like the scene, the King Kong scene, like he looks really weird.
Yeah,
at some point.
And I like that he looks off-putting. The thing that I'll say, and then like we can throw it over to Taylor. The thing why I really miss Norton is when Ruffalo comes in. It could have been different if Ruffalo got his own movie, but when we get to Avengers, when Ruffalo comes in, he kind of the first scene he has with Black Widow, he's kind of like joking around and everything like that. We always talk about how with Doctor Strange, we want him to not be quippy like he was in Thor Ragnarok, kind of that straight man vibe, right? I think, and we can talk about this when we get into Avengers, I think this version of Bruce Banner would have been much more welcomed than Mark Ruffalo's, in my honest opinion, because in Avengers, everyone gets really quippy, and it's fine, but it would have added a bit more of a different layer. Avengers gets the benefit of, okay, we've never seen these characters before, and Captain America kind of plays that straight man role, but I would have loved Bruce Banner, because he has humor like you talked about, but it's very subtle, and it's very few and far in between. It is, like, as Taylor would call it, innocent humor. Like, he's not trying to be funny, where Thor tries to be funny, Ruffalo tries to be funny at times, Iron Man tries to be funny, Hawkeye tries to be funny. Him being another straight guy, I think would have worked really well, and I think he would have clashed with them better, and that's where, to me, I like Ruffalo a lot because he did what they wanted very well, but I like Edward Norton. I feel like he is my favorite one because he is a bit more serious. I like him because he is more quiet. Bruce Banner is really a head case in the comic books, and I like that. And I remember that when they were doing this movie, a lot of people like myself were like, man, they need to get Edward Norton, and they got it, and I'm so mad we were robbed of seeing more, because it felt like, maybe it wasn't perfect casting like a Deadpool. Where
what is the story? Why did he get recast? Was
Because
it a money thing as well?
It was money, and apparently a lot of creative differences. Apparently there's a lot of this movie he, which you'll love, kind of wrote himself or decided to change some stuff, so I think it was maybe eventually, I think money was a big thing because he's not getting Downey money Avengers, and I do think it was, hey, are we going to be able to jive with him moving forward? And I think it was just like a combination of stuff. So, and I wish it really worked out because I thought, for me, he's a perfect Bruce Banner. When I think of Bruce Banner, I still think of, after the comics, I think of Edward Norton's
I feel like I didn't get enough in this movie to make up my mind on whether or not I think he would have been a good choice or a better choice than Ruffalo.
I just compare him to like comics and like animated versions. Earth Mightiest Heroes, watch that. It's a really good rendition of Bruce Banner. And I like that. I think we could have got more of him being more head casey, but I really enjoy Edward Norton. I would recast almost. No, I won't say that. But I would.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know. I would be willing to recast somebody else if I could get him back. You know, I don't know who. Not anymore.
You mean like Edward Norton as Hulk, or just like you like that actor?
No. Edward Norton as Hulk. Like I wish there was something I could give up that, like, not the main Avengers, but like I don't know, like if
you have to sell Geek first. Would you do it?
No, but like I would think about it, but no.
You have to sell Taylor.
I wouldn't. I would, because also the other thing is, sorry again before you go. The other thing is now with the way Disney works and their deal they can't make a solo Hulk film. Yeah. So I don't feel as bad because I don't ever feel like I really need a solo Hulk film with Ruffalo. I don't. Edward Norton gets really deep with Banner. I don't know if we get there with Ruffalo, to be honest. I feel like it's very surface level with Hulk. Like, I don't want to be the Hulk. It's scary. But with Norton, it feels like this is a fucking curse. So, yeah. And that's Banner to me. He's scared of the Hulk.
I look at, like, Edward Norton's Hulk as kind of like the equivalent to, like, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and, like, Bruce Banner is equivalent, or not Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo is, like, equivalent to, like, Spider-Man Homecoming Spider-Man.
Okay, so you think he's the perfect Hulk then? Because I feel like the consensus on Holland is like he's now the perfect Spider-Man because like he's the age, he's the quippy.
Good in very different ways, I guess. Like they both tackle like.
I feel like you should have picked Andrew Garfield.
I think you should just go into a little more detail because I don't know where you're going yet.
Well, they the two Spider-Mans take off and they dive into Spider-Man both in separate ways that are very good for Spider-Man. Yeah, and I feel like the same with Hulk. So Edward Norton dives into like a very scary, fearful, powerful, intense Hulk who's very serious and calm at times and quiet. And then you have Mark Ruffalo, who's much more. He has moments where he's like aggressive but not scary, and it is a little more quippy and humorous as he's trying to just kind of fit in and chime with the rest of the cast. So I like that. I like how they kind of do that take on both like two different versions of Hulk, even though it's
you get to pick one. Who would you take?
Yeah, because you're taking Ruffalo, right?
I don't know. I'm undecided. Like It would be a 50-50.
Because we never. That's why I would still.
Actually, I'd probably take Ruffalo, but it's like a very minor, just because I've seen him more.
That's why, even though I said I'm not super interested, I wouldn't be super interested. I would still be down to see a Soul Hulk film to see what he could bring to it as like his banner, right? Because we never got to do a big deep dive with him. Like
deep dive.
He is in Avengers a lot, and he is in Ragnarok a lot, but I don't feel we got same emotion. Like we don't see, even though you didn't love the thing, you don't see ties to like his old life and his old romance. Like,
well, yeah, we haven't gotten a Hulk movie. From him.
Exactly. So, but I do think, Dylan, you made the good point of, I think Ruffalo fits better for the way they ended up, though. If Norton and Ragnarok, I don't think that jives. I don't think that.
No, that'd be a very different movie.
Yeah, that would be a very different movie. But yeah, who do you pick? Once again, you're in the middle.
It's
Where do you take Eric Bana from Ang Lee's Hulk?
It's hard because it's like I mean, I had a really good point and it just slipped in my tongue.
This is just like Iron Man. We're like, who's that cameo? You think
who's that cameo? Ruffalo.
Damn it!
Jeez.
Oh, it was a really.
Do we need to
really
come back to
point.
you?
Come back to me in like a minute.
But I think this was like, just to talk from a business perspective. I remember when it happened, how they did it was at Comic-Con they got the whole cast out, and they didn't even say up to Comic-Con who was playing the Hulk. And I really got mad because Robert Downey was doing the entrances and they were watching live. And he said reprising the role of the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, as Bruce Banner. Because that literally no one knew. Ruffalo was rumored, but they had not announced if Norton was coming back until Comic-Con. Comic-Con was the time when Ruffalo walked down stage. Yeah. People, good for that crowd too.
Taylor's got it. What is it?
Yeah, I got it. You can finish.
Good for that crowd. They clapped and applauded. They didn't like, but it was down to the wire to deciding. So you can tell that they did, I don't think they wanted to, but they knew if we have to, we're going to do it. And clearly they had to. And we have Mark Ruffalo. What was your great point? This better be good. There's lots of build up to this. It's like Infinity War.
I lean towards this Hulk in a sense because of how good it was as an iconic, memorable movie. In the sense where, he's gone on such an epic journey and there's so much like emphasis on like him as a character and the Hulk in this movie and these events that happen. You remember it and you remember the atmosphere, and it's not bombarded with comedy like something that you mentioned like in the Iron Man one. Just how you want to remember a movie and you don't want it to be full of jokes every time you watch it, because then it's not something memorable. It's like, how many times I watched it once. It'll age differently. Yeah, it'll age differently. I watched it once and all it is jokes. I don't need to watch it again. It'll be the same humor. I won't laugh at it again. But this, it was just, it's serious, it's dark, and it's something I'd want to watch again and again and again. That's why I would lean towards Edward Norton. That being said, if Mark Ruffalo did that standalone Hulk movie and he came off as being dark, which I don't think we would get now, then I would go with Mark Ruffalo, because I do really, really like him as a Hulk, and I think the moments in like Avengers where he was very dark and kind of depressed and aggressive, I really loved how he did that interpretation for the Hulk. But that being said, just Edward Norton being given the film where it was just completely dark and gritty and serious, I think he takes it for me.
I think you did bring a good point. Another reason why I was really disappointed he didn't come back is because I feel like Mark Ruffalo really sticks out in Avengers because they don't really refer back to this movie that much. So for me, it feels very much like what Justice League will feel like, we recorded this before, was like we have Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. We know their stories, we know how they've gotten here, right? But then we also have Aquaman and Flash and Cyborg, where it's like, we're not connected to these people. Like we are because we're fans, but like not really because we don't know their story. Yeah. And that's why I feel like with Ruffalo, because we know everybody in that movie, but Ruffalo for me always sticks out as, it still works. It's still one of the best comic movies of all time, but it sticks out as far as I don't feel like I haven't been through his journey. Where with Marvel, every other hero, they made sure they wanted you to learn about that hero before you got the meetup, right? And I think you're supposed to take this movie as it's the same character, right? Like, this Incredible Hulk is still canon. This is what Mark Ruffalo went through. But it never feels like that because it never refers to that.
It's just unnatural.
But, like, so this is the thing. If they do a standalone Hulk or even Infinity War, would they bring back Liv Tyler as Betty? That's the thing. Like, and that to me is like, that feels kind of weird if they do that. Like, do they ever tie it back to this film? I don't think we ever get that.
I think at this point, no. Because it's been so long.
No.
Right?
But that's what I mean. Like, if you got a standalone Hulk, I feel like they would touch upon maybe they wouldn't now because he's on fucking different planets. But I always felt about that. If they did another Hulk, what would it be about? And if these characters in it, do they just recast these characters well? Because they brought back the same actor for Thunderbolt, so I'd assume they'd bring her back for Betty, right? That's the thing. And it's funny that Thunderbolt Ross comes back in the movie Hulk's not in Civil War. You know, like, it's funny they kind of do that. Once again, they
never interact.
Yeah, it's like a weird distant cousin sort of deal. So
weird distant cousin.
Let's talk about the romance, because Dylan is taking this to task. I got your snap, and I knew this was coming. I think it's great. Liv Tyler is a very...
My snap said, this dialogue is giving me a headache.
Yeah. Liv Tyler, and this is no offense, I think she's a very decent to good actress. It depends what she's in. She's never blown me away. I think her best role is still like Arwen in Lord of the Rings. She knocks out of the park. This is not like world class acting, but I think they have good chemistry. I think she has a good job of... I love that scene when she's like, General, she's like, Dad, like... She plays the emotional beats well, and yeah, I think she does a good job. And that scene in the rain, one of the most romantic scenes. I don't know if it would make it my top 10 Marvel scenes, but when they hug and embrace, you just get this feeling of, this legitimately feels like people that have not seen each other in years and they are reuniting. Where many times that feels empty, I think they have great chemistry in that. It does not, and it doesn't feel forced, the romance, because yeah, there's a romantic element, but she's also a friend just trying to help him get to point A to point B. They reconnect in a loving manner throughout the thing, which provides a great I can't get too excited joke. Love that joke. One of the best MCU jokes ever. Fantastic humor. The cab humor is great. Or they're like, oh, you don't want to put me in a small, secluded place in a subway. I like it all, and I like that the Hulk ends up leaving her, and, you know, it's that classic, like, oh, lover, star-crossed lovers thing. I really like the romance. I think it's next to Betty and Tony.
Next to Betty and Tony.
I do.
Good old Betty and Tony.
I agree, like, a lot of the romance scenes are great. Like, that moment in the rain, it was almost as if they were like, here, you guys need to fall in love for, like, 10 years, and then you guys don't get to see each other for another 10 years, and we're gonna put you together for the first time again. Yeah.
And that's what, that score, listen, that score is phenomenal. It's great.
He's lying to you.
And no, the emotional moments are great. No.
No, I think she had a lot of great moments throughout this movie. I love the scene where they were getting like a little down and dirty, and he's like, "Oh,
wait, what scene is that?"
Woo, down and dirty.
You don't remember that scene
in the hotel room, right?
The one that he just mentioned.
Yeah,
can't
get
I thought you were bringing up a different scene.
Yeah, the R-rated.
Like, I don't remember that.
He's like
the sex scene with Hulk.
Yeah, he's like,
oh shit.
He's like, I can't. And what did she say? He's like, oh, are you sure or something like that?
Not even a little excited, she says.
Yeah. You don't get that in the Marvel movies anymore.
I disagree. They made an orgy joke in Thor Ragnarok.
Just a little joke, but not a hotel room scene, though.
Oh, it's all about that hotel room
okay, fair
scene.
enough. He brings up a good point. And that's what I do feel like. I gotta look up. I really do feel like Iron Man and Hulk. It's because they're finding their tone, but they feel so different than MCU. And I'm trying to think, because even then with something like Valkyrie and Thor Ragnarok, she is bisexual. She's bisexual, but they cut out a scene where apparently like Thor walked in and a lady is like leaving her room kind of like scantily clothed, and they cut that for probably just because Disney reasons. And that is a good point. Like, and that scene is like, it's not like down dirty like you say, but like she has no pants on in the scene. Like they cover it up, but like he's grabbing her thighs. That like. We talked about this, the Iron Man thing. What was the darkest thing? What was the last like really like sexual thing in a like?
I can't remember something that wasn't a joke.
Yeah, that's even the last thing I think is in Guardians when Peter Quill had that alien in his basement, but she just pops her head up with like his shirt on, right? Like it's not that suggestive. They make suggestive jokes about like the orgy or Peter Quill with like the lights on, like the
Yondu with like doing up his pants.
True, in Guardians 2 he was in like a whorehouse, but even then it's like it's all suggested, right? It's suggested he had some sex, where Bruce is trying to get some sex. Even in Iron Man, like it's quick, but they have that scene where the girls again, like she's in her panties, they're on the bed, like that doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that is just like that is 100% a Disney thing. And I do miss that. I do, and that's why I always say why I like Civil War the most. I always go a bit more towards a more darker adult. Like look at my favorite comic movies, Dark Knight, Logan. Like I favor the darker, a bit more adult superhero ones, and I wish we would maybe get that a little times. I understand why we don't, but that's another reason why I think I like this movie so much, is because it feels like it's enough of the MCU, but not overly of like some of the tropes we may call it on, like too many jokes here, or not enough. The villain for us is a 2 1/3, but for us it's like a villain that's not. I'm gonna get the Hulk's power to destroy the world. You know, like it's not that. It's just a personal story about why he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk now about Miss
yeah.
Liv Tyler. So
Yeah.
this character to me, when I saw her, I was like, oh, and I know her from Lord of the Rings, my favorite movie of all time, you know. But yeah, she was very disappointing to me in this one. First of all, it didn't really make sense to me. Like, so I guess obviously when shit started to go awry, he like pieced out and moved somewhere else. But I don't really understand like why they did that, because to me, like their reunification, I mean, it wasn't like important to me like it was for you guys. Like I didn't really fall for it, I guess, and I don't really understand like why they at all had her having like some boyfriend or whatever. I really don't understand why they didn't kind of just like start the story with them like immediately getting back together, or them like still being together.
He had some scenes that got cut there on the DVD. He did have some. Like,
well, yeah, obviously, like that storyline is like, okay, why does this character exist? Like, why does he even have as much screen time as he does? Like, it doesn't fit. Like, I kind of feel like they should have just skipped right over that. And I don't know. Obviously, you guys like that scene when they finally get together. I didn't. I didn't think they really had.
Like when he sees him at a pizza place, and he's like, oh, and he like moves, and she's like, is this true? Like, is he here?
No, none of that was...
He has no heart, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I really... No, for this... I think this movie had no heart, and that's why I have no heart toward this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it really is how I feel. I don't think their chemistry was... I don't think they meshed well, like, at all. I think that a big part for me is the dialogue. I think the lines between them are really weird. Like, I feel like the actors... like got their script, and obviously Edward Norton's obviously tweaking with his script apparently in when the cameras aren't rolling, but when they were speaking, it just seemed like they were like awkward. They're like, why, like the lines didn't go back and forth well. I think every line she had was just like some super generic cliche line ripped out of 1,000 other movies I've seen before. And for me, that's why I couldn't get into these characters, is they didn't feel like they had any personality to them. They seemed super basic, and I think she was the worst out of all of them personally. Wow. So that's why the connection between them fell so flat for me. Because Edward Norton, he had some good moments for sure, but anything they had together, I was not into it, not enjoying it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else majorly we want to hit, Dylan? Did you want to hit anything on the score that you hate so much, apparently?
Well, there's nothing to say about it. It was just like the most cliche, generic action movie score of all time. You could take this score and just like rip it out, put it in some other action movie, take that movie's score, put it in this one, and honestly, you wouldn't notice a difference. Like, there was nothing to it. It was so boring.
How did you feel about Lou Ferrigno's scene?
I thought it was like a cool little cameo. You
yeah,
know?
It's
you gotta have someone. I guess you don't really need to, but if you want to have someone there who like lets them into that building, why not make it like Lou Ferrigno?
You know why?
Why not?
Right?
Yeah, he was the
OG Hulk.
Yeah.
Do you think that they should have? Well, I mean, it's great that they incorporated him, but do you feel like they should have like thrown Stan Lee in that role instead of killing Stan Lee off?
Sorry, what?
Because Stan Lee, they killed him off.
Well, they don't say, but this is
so instead of having the Lou Ferrigno bodyguard, you think Stanley should have been in that
He's
scene?
the bodyguard.
No, that makes no sense.
Well,
Well,
no,
like a security
and they
guard.
never say that.
What was wrong with the Stan Lee cameo? I thought it was kind of funny.
Stanley cameo was great. When we talk about Iron Man, I forgot about this one. I think it's one of the better ones. They never, as MCU fanboys point out, they never say he died.
I thought they said someone.
They said an old man got a little more kick than he expected, and he goes, "Wow, what a like he's
Yeah.
Oh,
wow."
and then I thought he dropped and
He,
died.
no, he drops the glass, but you never see him die. So that
Oh,
could
I
be.
thought that was implied. Oh wow.
Yeah, I think it is implied,
Mm.
but I think that's your way to like retroactive active. So, you know, he can keep cameoing in this. So,
Or he doesn't die because he's a watcher.
or he died and became a watcher. I
Well,
don't know.
yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple questions here. So, how do they find Mr. Blue? Like, I kind of missed that. Like, why? How do they come about finding him? It's through her, right? Like, she knows who he is. How the fuck does she know who he is?
I think that's a plot hole, and I think I guess it's maybe implied. So he's having those conversations with him. Mr. Blue does say we need to meet, so there is a chance that he gave him an address to go to, like an area to go to, because that's the last conversation they have. And then
but isn't she the one who like locates him?
She walks up and says like, "Hey," but I think she does that because he's like, like it's not a great disguise, but Banner's like off in the tree with a hat. Like I think she's approach.
classic
Yeah,
celebrity disguise.
well, when she
I
does,
don't want to get noticed. I can wear a hat.
when she walks him to like the fucking train station, all he has is like a jacket with like sleeves rolled up and just a hat. It's like, man, this guy's fucking wanted. He's the Hulk. Like, put a fucking scarf over him. Like, I know it's Hulk. Like, put like they do a bad job behind him. So I think that's what's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be her like going up so Banner doesn't get caught doing it. I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't really answer my question. Kind of.
I think no, and I said I think he told him where he was because he said the last conversation they had said is we need to meet because he says send like he said that we need to do testing and he's like that's not possible. He's like me send me more blood. He's like I can't do that. He's like well then the last thing is we need to meet. So I think that's what that was.
Were you referring to like how they got in touch with each other in the first place?
That's a good question too that I haven't thought about actually. Yeah, how does that happen?
That's movie magic, you know.
Movie
he
magic.
just found somebody.
Craigslist.
I
I don't be a good
Guy
chuckle.
associated with the color looking to associate with another guy who.
Anyone expertise with gamma radiation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's like kind of some. That storyline seems weird to me. I didn't really like that character either. Obviously.
Yeah.
He
He becomes. I think the plan was, but didn't happen. He becomes one of the Hulk's arch rivals, the leader. That's why if you saw the thing fall, like the Hulk's blood falls into his like head, he gets like this big head, and he can have like telekinesis, and he also turns green. So yeah, he becomes a big villain, but it never happened. They also say he's probably just locked up somewhere.
Why doesn't the Hulk ever get like telekinesis if his blood can do that to other people?
It didn't go into his brain, I guess. You know, it makes this guy suspect because what the leaders is he has a regular human body, and then he has a huge head.
One thing, another thing I disliked about the relationship between those two,
Oh, no.
and I had it in my notes. That's why I remembered it now. Is and you kind of maybe sort of answered this before, but like why? What is the point of holding off them meeting until like that bridge scene, right? Because they go to the. She is at the diner and she thinks she sees him and then all that shit happens.
Yeah, so romantic.
And then, like, he just hides and then she goes and asks that guy the question. And then the next scene is them, like, finding each other,
Well,
right?
she got...
So,
she,
like, how
she
stupid
drove
is that?
up
And obviously it's
behind
because
him.
that character, the boyfriend character, had more, apparently, that they cut. But to me, as a movie, it's like, why the fuck? Like, didn't they just interact there? Like, what is the point of delaying that one more scene?
Because it wouldn't be on the rain
It doesn't.
and the bridge.
I know, but that's
with
the thing,
that
right?
powerful score.
That's the thing. The only reason is to make it seem like over dramatic, and once again like a cliche action movie scene where they're kissing in the rain on a fucking bridge.
I'll give
right?
you that.
It seems
One,
so
they don't
unnecessary.
kiss. They don't kiss in that scene. And
I don't give
two,
a shit.
I'll give you that. But it worked. They did it, and it worked. It was a home run of a scene for most of us, and it was fantastic.
But 33% of the population didn't feel that way, and that's a pretty significant amount.
Did you look at Rotten Tomatoes?
No.
What is the Rotten Tomatoes score?
There's 3 people here.
It's 67. So it is 30, it's literally 33%. That's what I thought he asked.
Wow, that's spot on.
Wait, what? 33% on Rotten Tomatoes?
No, it's 67.
No,
it's
I'm
it's
with
fresh.
the 33.
Yeah, I know you
who
are.
are
Yeah.
speaking the truth.
When I saw the movie the first time, because I knew that's like the crossover was happening, I did think the whole time Mr. Blue was Iron Man. I thought, oh, this is how they're gonna get it
I
in.
kind of thought about that, and then I was like, nah, it can't be, right?
Yeah. I will say, so I can give this as a line for someone that I didn't like about Blonsky, is they at times maybe pushed a few too many one-liners on him. He at one point he's like, someone says like, "How are you feeling?" And he's like, "Like a monster." And then someone's like, "How are you?" He's then
There's some weird people in the script room.
Ross asks him, and he's like, "Oh, how's it going today, soldier?" And he's like, "I'm pissed off and I'm ready for round 3." Like there were a couple lines where I was like, "Okay, he is like chewing up the scenery a bit," but you know, I get it. I love they do the whole OG Hulk theme from the TV show when Banner is just walking down the street. That's how the Hulk TV show used to end the day. It would just be Banner like trying to hitchhike. You get that. It's like really sad music. So it's a classic Hulk theme. Reunion scene. I love the campus scene where he's fucking up all the soldiers, and I love like those sonic weapons they get. I think you always want a scene of just the Hulk messing up cannon fodder, and I thought it was great. And the way he just chucks stuff at helicopters, he saves Betty. Fantastic.
Cool. I'm happy for you.
And the Blonsky gets kicked, that's great.
Blonsky with the big kick.
The one thing I will say for a fun note, after that campus scene, when they shoot the bombs and there's a bunch of fighting and he protects Betty, it literally starts raining like on cue. Like it just starts raining.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pure daytime.
And they're on a bridge again.
No?
No, I know. I was just saying to coincide with that scene that you're so fond of.
Taylor, don't try to make me laugh right now. It's not gonna work.
I do think the slowest part is, I think it's necessary because it's
The
part
slow
of his
part
journey.
is like the first 2 hours.
No. It is his
Ew!
journey, but when he meets Mr. Blue and they do that experimenting on him, it does slow it down a bit. I think it is needed because that's the point of the story. He's trying to cure himself. But the problem is, unlike other MCU movies, they talk about like what it could mean in the future, and even the leader like gets created. None of that scene gets expanded on because the Hulk is just a supporting character in the future. So in retrospect, the scene feels not pointless, but it kind of seems like we just need a reason for Banner to get captured. So that scene to me always sticks out. Like, I like it, but it is a little slowdown moment and maybe doesn't jive with the rest of the movie. There's Kenneth Williams is in this movie when the Hulk throws a car. If you know who he is, he's a great actor from The Wire. So, yeah.
Do you feel like he had a good role based on his acting
skill? It was just a cameo. I do like that the Abomination, literally, you see him throw cars and people in the sky. You just see him mass murder people. I like that because a lot of times we just see like, oh, a building just kind of collapsed. Like, I'm a person that gives Man of Steel a lot of shit, but this is the villain doing it. It's completely fine for Abomination to be like throwing people around. So.
Oh, one thing actually that was really weird with the Abomination scene, he like jumps out of the building and there's like these 2 soldiers walking on the street and they like clearly see him like falling from the sky and he just like lands and keeps going. And then they're like cruising down the street and then they're checking their corners and like one of them turns to the right to like see if he's there. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you clearly saw him go to the left. Like, what are you doing? Really, really weird. Like, I don't know how they didn't see that when they're filming this movie. It's like, what?
So you remember?
I guess he's supposed to be sneaking, but
he's a sneaky Abomination. At one point, Betty takes a photo of Bruce, and then at the end of the movie, she has.
It's a bad idea. They're trying to be hidden. They're trying not to reveal their identities.
It could
like,
be the
just take
last
some
photo.
photos.
It could be the last photo. At the end of the movie, it's very random. Betty's just standing on a bridge, like kind of reflecting back on everything. And like her camera starts to beep and she takes it out and it's like low battery and it dies. And 2 things. 1, cameras don't just do that unless Betty just literally had the camera on the whole time in her pocket. And they don't just beep at you. And 2, the way they play it off in the movie is kind of like, oh, like if the battery dies, she'll lose this picture forever. But as long as she gets a good SD card, Bruce is still going to be there.
You think Betty's the kind of girl to have a good SD card?
Yes.
I think she gets the worst.
She
gets the discount brand.
leave Betty alone. The ending, and we'll talk about this, I think, more. I'm just bringing it up now. We don't really got to talk about. We'll talk about in Avengers. It ends with.
Sentence. Wild ride.
You'll understand where I'm going.
Sure.
The way the movie ends with like Bruce cross-legged, and then he like smiles and gets the eyes. Green Hulk. We'll talk about Avengers because like in Avengers, it's unclear in that movie when he can turn into the Hulk, because at one point in the Avengers he just turns into the Hulk, but at the end he's like, that's my secret, I'm always angry, kind of implying he can control it. Because at the end of this movie they give the implication that like he can control, and some people thought, oh, he might be the villain of Avengers, like if he's bad.
Yeah,
but like
cool, yeah.
I don't really understand the ending, and maybe there were plans for it, but now once again in retrospect it doesn't really make much sense.
I don't know, it kind of combines with what the ending of Iron Man was. I think it's just supposed to be like a shock ending, hey, there's going to be more. But I think at that point they weren't necessarily thinking 300 or 400 steps down the road, right? They're just like, let's just do something that will be like a shocking ending. People won't see this coming. It'll give something for people to talk about.
I guess. I still don't like it then, but because it
I don't
just
like it
doesn't mesh with everything.
I think that's what they were trying to do.
My highlight for that ending was that he was running British Columbia.
He lives in Canada, yeah.
So
people were waiting for him to bump into Logan.
He ran to British Columbia. His cabin at the end, it's in BC.
He ran to British Columbia?
Yeah, he was running. You see him running there. He's running to the cabin.
How do you know he's in British Columbia?
Because it says British Columbia.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know.
Maybe you gotta watch this movie again, Dylan.
That's the last thing.
How do we feel about Iron Man's scene?
Iron Man scene. What does he do again?
He talks to Ross and he talks about we're putting a team together.
Oh yeah. Alright, I guess.
It is a little weird in the sense, because it doesn't fit well with the story in the sense at all, because
what's the point, I guess?
He apparently turns down joining the Avengers.
No, I disagree. It's not yours of what's the point. There was a point to it, but then they retroactively make the point null in Iron Man 2.
What? What's that?
So, like, Sam Jackson goes like, "Hey, we want you," the Avengers Initiative, right? And then in Iron Man 2, Sam Jackson's like, "Oh, you turned that down," and then at the end, Sam Jackson's like, "I don't want you part of the Avengers because you're too reckless." So the point of him, that's why Incredible Hulk to me sometimes sticks out, because it's like, what is the, obviously the point was just to establish, oh, we're crossing over, but the scene,
you mean like Iron Man was going off and make his own team or something? Is that what you're...
Well, that's what he says. He says he just says we're putting a team together, implying that's the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, I assume, okay, him and Sam Jackson, they agreed, we're making the Avengers. Iron Man 2 picks up with Downey being like, I'm not in the Avengers, so it's very weird for him.
Can you assume then that he's making a team that is
No, he's not making the Revengers or whatever, you know.
Why not?
Because
he fucking does that later. He does in Civil War, doesn't he? He makes a team.
Oh, so he was thinking that far ahead to like, oh, if one day this guy in the
I
fucking is...
don't know, I'm just saying, why is it weird for him to make a team?
Because at that point, the point of Iron Man 2 is he needs to learn to work with others. At that point, that guy, look at Iron Man 1, he blows Rhodey off, he doesn't want to work with people, it's all about him. So him to be making a team doesn't make sense. It would make sense if he joined the Avengers, but it doesn't really make sense in the scope of... Lots of this Incredible Hulk retroactively does not make sense in the scope of the MCU anymore. So.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a distant memory.
I will say I like that Stark makes this jab at Ross when he's talking about like science. He's like, oh, that's why, like, look at what science got you, like blah blah blah. Like, this is why I stick to machinery. Like, it'll never fail you. And I love that because Ross is a big villain in this movie. He kind of becomes Ross if you look throughout the MCU, because he's like, oh, I can always rely on machinery, but like, I don't know, Ultron kind of went haywire. So like, if you look at the trajectory of Ross and him, he kind of becomes Ross, like Tony Stark near like Civil War, like pushing everyone apart, making bad choices. So I kind of like that. That's something that works in retrospective when you look at that and when he says like, okay, that plays here. So
yeah.
I got a few quick trivia notes. This one's quite funny. The director originally wanted Mark Ruffalo for the role, but Marvel insisted on Edward Norton. So
you fucked up, Marvel, apparently, because they just got the same guy back later.
Yeah, I don't know if they did. According to Tim Roth, Ed Norton rewrote scenes every day. Norton and Liv Tyler also...
Well, actually, no, because in hindsight, wouldn't it have been better if Ruffalo was in this movie, even if he wasn't as good as 100%, because then it would have worked better.
I agree with that 100%.
It would have given that connection that we are so lacking.
But I don't want to lose the masterclass of Edward Norton's performance. No, I honestly would rather take the Ruffalo standalone and see like what it would have been like. According to Tim Roth, Edward Norton rewrote scenes every day. Norton, this is what I was talking about.
Wow.
Norton and Liv Tyler also spent hours discussing their characters live, especially before the Hulk appeared. So that's where I feel that, they...
I think they just said that, but they were off getting freaky or something.
Oh wow.
Wow.
So here's more what I was talking about earlier. Edward Norton, who had previously rewritten films he had starred in, wrote a draft of the script, which the director of Marvel Studios found satisfactory in establishing the film as a reboot of 2003's Hulk. As Norton explained, I don't think that in great literature or films explaining the story's roots mean it comes from the beginning. Audience know the story, so we're dealing with it artfully. Norton's rewrite added the character of Doc Samson, mentioned references to other Marvel characters. He also wanted to put in revelations about what set the whole thing in motion that would be explained in future installments. So that's one thing, though, where I do miss out, though, and I didn't even know it was that deep. To me, whether like it or not, he's putting in references to other Marvel things. It did feel like he cared about it, like a lot, like he was invested in, look at that, I want to plan for other Hulk movies. It's just with what they were turning into, they don't have that. I think Downey shows up to play ball. What do you want me to do? I do it. Where Norton sounds like, hey, I want to be a partner in this. I want to be at the head table. Like, there's the head table, and then there's the side of people that are the actors, like, yeah, let's do this. And there's like the creative. I think he kind of wanted to be in the middle, and they're like, I don't know, because it's a kind of it's almost what would that be? Collateral damage in a way if he's an actor and he got more power and they had to cut time. Like, imagine if he was in Avengers and then they would have to recast him. Like, that would have been huge. The Hulk you can kind of throw aside, but yeah, so it would have been interesting. Originally, Abomination was set to return in Age of Ultron, but got cut. So it shows that they are maybe opening to it. So I wouldn't be surprised in Infinity War if that's supposed to be like the end of these phases, if they do find a way to work him in as like a big, like Thanos, like brings him as a soldier, something like that. In addition to rewrites, Edward Norton directed himself in some of his own scenes too, such as the campus scenes, to save time when the director was busy working with the second unit. This is mentioned in the director's cut on the Blu-ray. So he had his hands quite full in this movie. So you can see maybe where some
Those are some big hands, am I right?
And Eric Bana, who wasn't annually told, was asked to return, but he turned the role down, which that is I find very strange. They're starting a reboot, a whole new thing, and they asked him to come back. So kind of strange.
Who, the old director?
The guy who did the first Hulk movie, like who played Banner. They asked him to come back, and he declined. So
interesting.
I find that strange. So I'm gonna go first because I'm super positive. I love this film. I think I mentioned there's a few cons here and there. There might be some slowdowns and a few parts that maybe don't work, but I love Banner. I think this is a criminally. I love Norton as Banner. I love the story. I think it is a great simple story. I think I've said it the best way I could. That it's a spy thriller with a Hulk skin. Love the romance. Love the villains. Blonsky's goat. Like I said, I think this is the most underrated comic book movie of all time. We could take a look at them, but I think this is easily in the discussion. And yeah, I love this movie. I would give it.
What are we rating out of
how many seats?
The shade of green?
That's a lot of shades.
Well, I think you should go for it.
I'll give it
we like to do things differently, Geekverse, and we are branded with the green color, so.
Yeah.
50 Shades of Green.
I would.
Like, would you give it like a lime, or is this more like a pale turquoise?
Like a Microsoft green, you could say.
You could say like an Xbox green. And like, I guess the 10 in this scale would be like Hulk green. You know?
I'm just trying to think of what I want to give it because I think I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8 because
No. What shade of green is that though?
8 shades of green. That's almost a turquoise.
You skipped the question.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck your question. Yeah, I'll give it an 8 because there is some cheesiness. There is some stuff we talked about that doesn't make sense now looking at it. But yeah, I will give it an 8 out of 10. Very, very great, solid film, and I like to. I can watch this one over and over.
One thing I was trying to think of, like, so we're talking about Tony Stark, and he had this other cameo. How many movies, like, so far has he actually been in? Like,
quite a few. 10.
I can't answer that, but I can answer this is the only movie that doesn't have Sam Jackson in Phase 1.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so another thing, the Hulk that did not kind of got ignored. While you're going, I can think about that.
Alright. I think this movie did so many things right. I feel like it was just a fun thrill ride, but a very dark and mysterious and not horrific, but very gritty kind of tone as well. I think it satisfied that kind of Hulk thing I wanted that I didn't get in that other weird
Ang Lee Hulk.
one. It was great. I could watch it again and again. I have an urge actually to go home and watch it again after this. To be honest,
nice. Watch that bridge.
You're gonna go play Battlefront.
Yes, I am. But you know what? I wanna watch this. You know.
Did you not watch it before we did this?
I did. Thank you, Netflix. But
Yes, thank you, Netflix.
Yeah.
True.
It's definitely just. It's a great movie. I'm gonna give it like a 9 Days Without Incident out of 9.
Nice. That was a good one.
Good.
That's better than your Shades
If
of
only
Green
you thought
crap.
of that, dude.
And you thought Shades of Green?
Yeah, because you know what? Here at the Geekverse, we like to innovate. We like to do things different. Do you know how many other reviewers have rated a movie based on how much of a shade of a color it is, based on the characters in play?
Whoever's
here, no one, Travis.
I bet-
You know why? Maybe it's a shitty system, but you know what? Maybe it's because they didn't think that far ahead.
I bet who's ever doing the fucking Bob Ross retrospective is giving those type of ratings out. So
Yeah, but I don't. But I think we would also be the first people to do the Bob Ross retrospective if we did do that.
well, shut us up if you want us to
Shut
shut
up.
up.
Yeah.
Retrospective.
This painting was great.
Yeah, so you already know how I feel about this movie. You guys didn't really change my opinion much. Maybe a bit, like, maybe you gave a little bit more to Blonsky.
Did I at least give you enough that would at least edge it over Dark World? Because for me, I thought if you...
Malekith is pretty bad.
Malekith is awful.
Yeah. Honestly, the problem...
Actually, don't
The
spoil.
problem-
We'll wait for the ranking episode.
Well, my quick spoiler is that we watched Dark World like a couple weeks ago, and I already forget I don't really remember much from that movie.
Remember that?
You'll remember this. You'll
remember
this.
that girl who was like the sub-scientist who's really annoying?
In
like,
Hulk or
in Thor, she's making all those
Darcy.
quips. Darcy.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
Darcy?
I remember Darcy.
Yeah. Well, there's no Darcy in Hulk.
True.
Yeah, but there's a fucking Betsy.
Betty.
Oh God.
Come on.
You can't compare those two.
Stop drinking
Honestly,
the
I
haterade.
can. I think this
no.
was I think that character was written awfully.
Iron Man's been in 7 movies, I'm pretty sure.
7, okay.
I'm gonna say 9.
Nope, that's not true.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but the thing that's most because I did want to like this movie, obviously, and I mean obviously it's a different cast, so it doesn't really connect, but I still wanted to like this movie. I was just disappointed by it, and I was disappointed that this was all it was trying to do, because I feel like it was very basic. It was just a generic action movie, and that's about it to me. Like, there really wasn't else there. The characters were poorly written. They didn't mesh well at all. Yeah, this movie was a big disappointment for me. I don't really care, I guess, because he got recast, so it's like, whatever, it's kind of a different character. But this is a movie I will never watch again in my entire life, likely. It's in contention for the bottom of the barrel of the Marvel rankings when we get there.
Oh, I'm not looking for that.
Yeah, it's super, super bad movie.
I
I can't even think of like creative fun words to describe how much I dislike it, because it just really had nothing there.
I just don't understand. You're
It
missing
lacked
out. You're missing out
content.
on this
I
experience.
feel like this is no. I was gonna go somewhere with it. I don't want to go.
The Suicide Squad of the MCU. Were you about to say that? Because it's not.
Actually, I'll compare it to Suicide Squad. So the thing with Suicide Squad is that what did it set out to do? It set out to, fuck what we'd been doing before. Let's just make a fun movie. And, that kind of worked. Like, I saw it in theaters and I had enough fun. And I think I gave it like a 7 at the
Awful.
time.
That's awful.
And here's what I'm saying.
No.
Is Suicide Squad a good movie? No, it's not. It's also has like a bunch of shitty characters that have no backstory.
This doesn't
the villain's
have any
bad.
problem. Well,
But,
you think it does.
but that movie at least set out to do something, and I feel like it achieved that. Whereas this was trying to be like
no.
a cool action movie,
Thanks.
and it
Hunka,
fucking sucked at
hunka.
doing that.
Hunka. Taylor, where could they find the spin-off show Hunka Hunka and all the other great shows on the
Well,
Geekverse
when
channel?
you're done chatting up Mr. Blue in the dark web, you can find us in the search bar on
Search B.
Google. You gotta type in on your Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. When you go on your Facebook, in the Facebook search bar, you gotta type in Geekverse Space Podcast. The space bar, not type in space, is a huge difference. So when you get onto there, you're gonna find our Facebook, and it's got an awesome cover photo, profile picture, and even better,
You
tons
can't
of
mistake that
links
green. Yeah.
to a ton of awesome green like Hulk. It's fantastic.
Green like Hulk.
You'll find tons of awesome links to so many awesome stuff and so many other sites like the ones Travis maintains, like Twitter, which is
He maintains all of Twitter.
all of Twitter.
Every tweet that's ever been tweeted, Travis.
It's all me.
He's
Go
the big
there and geekverspodcast.com. Find our social media. Find our videos on YouTube. Find our podcast subscriptions all over the world. Most importantly, iTunes and SoundCloud. Give us a subscription, a like, a review, wherever you go, because that helps us out. That helps us grow the channel. Helps us get more content out there for you, the fans. If you really like what we do, head over to Patreon. Throw us $1, throw us $5, and you're going to get great exclusive content, great early content. There's a bunch of Marvel retrospectives up there. If you like this, you can get them early. You don't got to wait for Infinity War May to listen to them all or watch them all. You can get it right now. Right now. At patreon.com.
At patreon.com/.
So we thank you very much for tuning into the second episode. Next week is next week is Iron Man 2. I'm pretty sure. Not next month.
Captain America.
The next episode is it's Iron Man 2. Captain America's the last one.
Please simmer down.
Next episode is Iron Man 2. That should be a fun one because that's quite the debated movie.
Highly debated.
I don't know if it is. I think it just gets crapped on a lot. But until then,
Have
a marvelous day. And we'll see you in the post-credits. What's happening?
What the fuck? I did great.
Yeah, we're on regular speed. And you're like at point -1.5.
Point -1.5,
Yeah,
Taylor.
like he's just a little bit behind us.
I forgot if we were going with day or time. A marvelous time, and then I was like,
They both work.
I'll slow down. I'll wait. Until
Either
it's
way,
like
time
day.
and day are the same amount of syllables.
Yeah,
so you
man,
could get away with either one.
I I really hope. I really
And like time of day is like a thing people say, so it would actually work. It'd be like very poetic if you just went with it.
I really wish that we said day and he said time though. I have moments in time. Oh,
Night.
yeah. Year.
If you went for afternoon, that would have been a
Yesterday.
big mistake.
Marvelous.
Oh, boy.
Yesterday.
We're gonna eat some fucking broccoli soup.
You need some broccoli in that soup.
Mhm.
Bulk is kind of like a big man.